Well, everybody's heard about the bird. The bird's a winner, well, a bird.
Grown men watch this shit?
A podcast about indie wrestling.
Bird is a winner, well, a bird. Well, a bird is a winner, well, a bird. The bird's a winner, well, a bird. Well, a bird is a winner.
Alright, hi guys. Welcome to
Grown men watch this shit?
a podcast about indie wrestling with your hosts, Chris and my good friend, Jeremy.
My name is Jeremey Tate, a.k.a. sometimes known as James Vanderbeek on the Twitter machine.
Oh.
It's ridiculous. Don't worry about it. You might figure it out later. Who cares? So what's going on, Chris?
Oh, man. I am slightly more alive than I was following that WrestleMania weekend. That ridiculous amount of shows that we made it through. I was like legit dead afterwards. Yeah, went to Chicago after it, and the whole time in Chicago, I was just like so sick and on death's door. Like, it was a bad time. How did you pull up afterwards, sir?
I did probably fared as well as you, but I imagine you were off a little bit worse since you had such a long travel ahead of you as well. But man, after I got home, I rested up because, as you know, I did injure myself on the trip. Pretty gnarly, tripping at a bar while sober, mind you.
That's the best part. That's the best part. The fact that it was while sober. And then the things that were to come afterwards.
Yeah. So after I got home, man, I thought my leg was seriously jacked up, so I was nervous. But it's all healed up pretty okay. Everything's fine now. And man, I had to go to other shows immediately afterwards, and that was like, man, I love wrestling, but it almost felt wrestled out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I can definitely relate. But I mean, that is the commitment that we expect out of these indie wrestling maniacs that run this show. You know, we rain, snow, or shine. I don't know what that saying is officially, but you know, you get the gist. We will see indie wrestling no matter what state we're in, and even after we have sat through like 8 hours of terrible WrestleMania. But alas.
Indeed. There's a special breed of wrestling fan like yourself and myself who actually take time to travel to other countries or other states, long-distance places to go watch and enjoy professional wrestling. And I imagine anybody who would end up listening to this show is of similar ilk. And, you're a special breed of wrestling fan when you have that kind of commitment.
I think so, yeah. And that's like a big part of like my want to do this show. You know, it's like there are other people out there that are on the same level of dumbness, basically, when it comes to their commitment to this shit. And it's like, I didn't used to know how many people were out there. Like, I mean, I don't know about you, but I started watching indie wrestling maybe in like 2002, 2003 when ROH was getting real hot. And to me, it was like, I felt like me and some other like tape trading wrestling nerds, and that was about it. But now, like, just seeing that scene at that like Long Beach New Japan show that I got to go to, and then just everything in New Orleans where it's like indie wrestling basically took over New Orleans. And I was just having amazing chats with this dude, that dude, and it's just like, it feels like it's broken through from that, lame wrestling nerd cliche of living in their mum's basement type of deal to just being like, you know, normal people who like to go out and drink some beer and watch some crazy shit.
Yeah, maybe see a wrestler pile drive another guy in the middle of Bourbon Street. That kind of shit happens, you know?
How great an introduction was that? Okay, so let us set the scene for the listeners at home of this amazing moment. You know, obviously, you probably heard in the state of Louisiana, we had some restrictions for WrestleMania weekend about the blood. And most famously about the not wanting any pile drivers. So I think a lot of people were thinking, how's this weekend going to go without pile drivers? We even have a show called Pancakes and Pile Drivers. We have Minoru Suzuki coming out. How can there be no pile drivers? And
Yeah.
then we got into our first night out, right? Was this Thursday night?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, or maybe Wednesday night.
Dude, they all blur together at this point. It was like a single night that all translated over an entire week. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. But I think I got in Wednesday night, and the first show was Thursday with that Bloodsport one. So this may have been Wednesday night when we got to have a great reunion. That was the first time I got to see you since our awesome night of beers in Seattle last time.
Yes, sir. Yeah, you actually, I think the timeline you're pointing out now is actually the correct one. I apologize. But yeah, man, running into somebody who, of course, we are international friends and we don't see each other on a very regular basis. And he's made his way up to Seattle to visit me. I guess at some point I have to make the same. But
Seattle's way cooler than Brisbane. Just let's keep it in Seattle, you know.
Sounds all right, man. But yeah, it's been way too long, and man, sometimes when you go to wrestling shows, you'll meet somebody that you just connect with. And when me and Chris first met down at PWG at Bola, we just decided, hey man, this is my homie. We're bullshitting for this entire rest of the weekend, and we've been bullshitting ever since. And now we're doing the fucking show.
Yeah, so cool. And yeah, that's like a big part of it as well. You know, just meeting these people that you have these connections with. And I felt like as soon as I met you in that car park, I just felt like I knew you forever. And I was like, all right, I'm going to get along great with this guy for the rest of this weekend. And then we did.
Hell yeah. Yep, and then randomly, well, not so random, but pretty randomly on Bourbon Street, then encountering Joey Janela giving this gentleman a pile driver in the middle of Bourbon Street. And maybe we shouldn't talk about that. We don't need the state commission coming after Joey late.
No.
Actually, no, I think he posted it online. I think we're okay.
Yeah, I thought it was a pretty special thing. You know, first bit of wrestling we got to see was Joey Janela pile driving some drunk dude in the middle of Bourbon Street while a bunch of wrestling fans were surrounding them, jumping up and down, like popping like crazy. We got to see a pile driver on this weekend. Fuck yeah.
And then motherfuckers trying to hustle us for maybe some party favors at times. And, that somebody might go run to get some money and trip and hurt his leg. And, it happens. Those things happen on Bourbon Street.
Those things happen on Bourbon Street. Hot tip for anyone playing at home, planning on going to New Orleans in the French Quarter in the near future. After like 4 days of partying pretty damn hard on Bourbon Street, I discovered Frenchman. Did you discover Frenchman at all, Jeremy, during your time there?
I was supposed to go there my last night, but I was initially so exhausted I was going to stay in, but then everyone at least convinced us to go out on Bourbon because it was so close to the hotel room. But you know what? I heard that place is pretty awesome at nighttime. How was Frenchman Street or whatever, that area?
It was great. Like, we were staying the suburb or whatever over from Frenchman. So we walked straight through it, like those first 4 nights, just looking around like, oh yeah, this place looks pretty cool, But we didn't go there. And then on the last night, my buddy John, who actually just got engaged during his time there in New Orleans, he wanted to do a big night. And so, as dead as I was at that stage, I'm not going to be a bad friend. I'm going to go out. I'm going to help him have this good night. And that was the night where we just hit up Frenchman. And it was amazing. Like, just so much cooler than Bourbon Street. I mean, you have to do Bourbon Street still for the experience, but, I mean, I think I had a better time on Frenchman.
Yeah, that definitely sounds like I missed out on it. Someone I knew before I went down there said, hey, make sure you make your way to Frenchman at some point. I'm like, yeah, I'll definitely do that. But I went far too hard. Every night I was out at least till 6 in the morning, kicking myself in the long run, you know what I mean? But you only get to do it so many times.
Oh, yeah. You surprised me a few times when I'd check how you did. And I'm thinking definitely you went back to the hotel room after like some of these late ass wrestling shows. I think was it the spring break one that you maniacally went out on Bourbon Street afterwards when the show finished at like 3, 4 in the morning?
Yeah, I was like, man, it's 3 in the morning. I'm still awake. I'm all energized because even though as tired as I was, that show was so ridiculous. I kind of felt like a buzz of like how fun, like the PCO and Walter match. The actual clusterfuck was so much fun. It was
The Invisible
tremendous match.
Man. The Invisible Man.
The match won by a man that no one can see, and then of course Great Sasuke with Joey Janela. It was fucking.
Oh, dude,
tremendous.
that Sasuke match was everything I wanted it to be. Like, just all the craziness. Because I'd actually been to Japan before, and I went up to Sendai, which is a beautiful place, by the way. If you ever go to Japan, definitely go to Sendai. It's like maybe 2-3 hours north of Tokyo, specifically for a Michinoku Pro show, which is basically Sasuke's company. The same one that was like around from like the early 90s. It was getting all that sort of good reception for innovating that totally awesome junior style of wrestling that we see everywhere now. And that show was sick, but and I was just so excited to see Sasuke, because Sasuke, even at that point, was like just a great legend to me, from the Super J Cups and all the other ridiculous shit that he's done. The that bump that he takes, people might have seen this, where he's on top of a ladder inside of a barrel and then takes a bump off the top of the ladder, bounced off the ropes, and I'm surprised that man did not die. I've been surprised that man didn't die on many occasions, but getting to see him in person on the Michinoku Pro show was like kind of, this is his sort of house show deal. He's not going to go all out. And great, thankfully so. I don't want to see this guy die. But yeah, on this Joey Janela Spring Break show, he went all out crazy Sasuke. I mean, he took his flip bump into the open up steel chair.
Oh my god.
I mean, so much crazy shit. And I think a lot of people there were like semi-asleep and or dead by that stage. But to me, I was like sort of right in this middle high of like, this is ridiculous that I'm a show right now. I'm sort of like tired, but like I've got this weird artificial life in me because I'm just so excited. So it was like, it very much felt like a surreal drug-taking experience. But yeah, it was just insane. And I think my favorite part was when he tried to do the barrel spot with a garbage can. Do you recall this?
Yes, sir.
So he's on the top rope. Joey's set up on the outside. He's like on a table and some other shit. And Sasuke is with great difficulty trying to put this just trash can, this waste bin that it's just like one from the venue, right? I don't think it was a specific type. And he's trying to put it on himself with great difficulty. In Japan, when they do this, the referee normally assists him, holds his hand or whatever. He was getting no help and having a great deal of difficulty trying to do this. Eventually, he just thought, fuck it, hurled this big old garbage can down on top of poor Joey and probably Penelope, I think, and then just went for a crazy flip dive to the outside on them to make up for it. The whole thing was great.
If all else fails, it just flip on a motherfucker. Yeah. The whole thing was just like you said, like a drug, like surreal experience, because I was dragging ass a little bit, and I did take a nap in the car between shows.
I thought I was alone in this. I took a nap on the grass. I had my little New Orleans safari hat over my face, just having a little lie down on the grass. It was quite nice.
Yeah, I took a quick 30, then popped up, and I did feel rejuvenated, but still like not fully like awakened there. So I was able to make it through the entire show, but so much weird shit happens on a Joey Janela Spring Break. You're still like, oh my god, there's Invisible Man, and then okay, now these two guys are fighting the Invisible Man. He's kicking him in the nuts. I don't know. It's hard to explain if you're not a big indie wrestling fan who's never been to a show where there is an Invisible Man involved in the match, how things go down in such a match. You know what I mean?
And then we have and now Mikey Whipwreck is here. And I think Brian Pillman's son was out there for a brief moment with his cane hitting some dude. I think a lot of people didn't even see that.
Grado.
Yep.
Fucking, such a weird mix of motherfuckers in one match, but tremendous all along. I guess they said, somebody posted something online that said Ethan Page helped basically book that whole thing out, and what a fucking fun match to put together, you know what I mean?
Yeah, because he was a big part of the first one. And, Ethan Page gets a lot of hate in some ways, but you can't say he's not an entertaining wrestler.
No, by no means. He focuses on that. He knows he has a decent enough ability, but he knows at the end of the day, all the really good guys were also incredibly entertaining. So he takes up the time to make sure he's really good on the stick, good promos, nice and funny in the middle of the ring, talking shit while wrestling. I think that's a key for a lot of guys that they kind of miss out on.
Yeah, definitely. He just like the whole vibe of everything was crazy. Like the that PCO Walter match, holy shit. I mean, people have probably heard the legend of this by now. That I'll never forget that. Hey, I still think that may be the best match of the weekend. Definitely the craziest.
I concur 100% because people are familiar. Man, sorry, I apologize. People are familiar with PCO, man. They may not be familiar from his days back in the WWF, when he was a member of the Quebecers. Like, this guy's been wrestling forever. And
yeah, he was one of the Mounties too, was he?
What?
He was one of the Mounties as well, Pierre Carl
Yeah, I think they were both called
Jacques
that
Rouget.
and the Quebecer. Like, they kind of melded into the Mounties thing. Like, it's that whole thing with those two guys was kind of, and then he became a pirate. So
Yeah, and then they
it's
had
all
their
very-
sweet WCW run as well. I remember that was quite underrated when I was rewatching some Nitro a couple years back. But yeah, I've for a long time had a lot of love for Pierre Carl, and I think a lot of people didn't necessarily either remember him or remember how good he was. He actually had a short run on the indies in the early 2000s. In I think like a lot of stuff based in Montreal, like IWS. He did a lot of stuff there, and some of the other Montreal-based companies. He even had like a very brief run in TNA back when they were based in Nashville as the dreaded, it was like Dr. X or something. It was quite bizarre.
Or just X even, I think.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I'd been a fan for a
imagine they have
while.
a renaissance now.
And that's the coolest part.
This guy's having a renaissance.
Yeah, and like all of the people today who may not have remembered him, like him getting to come out and just show who the hell PCO is and what a match to do so. Yeah, I thought he did so good.
Split-legged moonsault.
Yeah, moonsault to the outside from the
one
top
of the better
rope.
matches of the entire.
Yeah.
It's hard to describe seeing a man his age do that kind of shit. You know what I mean?
Oh, ridiculous! And like, I mean, people talk about Walter's chops, but seeing them in person is maybe a bit of a different thing. So violent.
Yeah. Then with the rumors, I imagine we'll talk about it at some point, or we can just go into it now. The rumors of Walter's potential signing, even though he does have dates booked well out through the year, I suppose. Read. Who knows? That could be like one of those red flag kind of things, throw people off the scent.
Yeah,
but
who knows?
Walter getting signed, that's a really interesting prospect, I think.
Sure is.
He's got incredibly interesting look. He's huge, so Vince would probably be really, really interested in the guy. So yeah, Walter, I think he has huge potential if he does come to the WWE.
Yeah, he was a guy that for a long time I think a lot of people thought he's amazing, but not a WWE kind of guy. Both because of the look being a bit different to what WWE likes, the hard hitting side of things maybe not translating as well.
Sure.
And the fact that he actually has a really good gig in Germany, where I believe he runs the school for WXW and has a lot of other stuff going on there with them, to where he doesn't necessarily need it, and he's just having a great time doing what he's doing. So I mean, I always like it when you have your indie guys like that who have just got a lot of great stuff going on and they don't necessarily need to take an offer. But I mean, if he wants to and do his thing, I'd be really, really happy for him.
Yeah, it's one of those things where some of those guys in Walter's situation where they may not need it. Hey, and a lot of wrestlers want their opportunity to see how they can hang up in the WWE, at least give it a shot. And if things don't work out, he still has a situation where maybe he can go back to, because his school, I mean, with a wrestling school like that, when somebody takes steps down, there's people waiting there to, help out and take up the slack while they're gone. And I think, doesn't Thatcher train there as well?
Yeah. I think that's where the Mein Kampf tag team with Walter originated.
Yeah. So definitely seeing him come to at least for even if it's just a short period of time, take a shot, make some pretty good money as far as I'm aware. So hey, all the power to Walter, and then of course the other interesting potential or definite signing is at this point with Keith Lee. Is he definite?
Yeah, Keith Lee. Before we get on to that, I will correct myself. Ring Kampf. I don't want any complaints.
I missed that too. Shit, now I played it back in my head and like, oh no, that's not it at all.
Yeah,
Holy crap.
that's a little bit different.
Mind you, we did not skip over that intentionally. That is a flub on our part. Wow.
We got it. But yeah, Keith Lee, and how exciting is that? Keith Lee has just had such an insane run over the last year. I remember first time I saw Keith Lee was when he was in ROH and he was doing the it was like a security bodyguard sort of weird gimmick with that other dude in ROH whose name's escaping me right now, Shane something. Shane Taylor, yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
The next time I saw him, I think while he was still with ROH, I went to a Beyond Wrestling show up in Providence, Rhode Island. And for those who don't know, Beyond Wrestling is very, very fun. If you're generally in the area of a Beyond Wrestling show, please go. It's definitely reignited my interest in indie wrestling a lot there a couple of years ago. But yeah, Keith Lee was on the show, and that was the first time I saw him really just in his bask in my glory gimmick, and he just killed it, doing all this crazy stuff. And that was the first time I was like, wow, this guy's gonna be a big deal. And fast forward to the bowler that we went to, and that was such a, I think he was over in PWG prior to that, but something to just cement a guy in. Just what a great performance over that whole weekend.
Agreed 100%. Traditionally, I'm not a big fan of the big guys doing the crazy stuff, but Keith Lee, when he's taking flight, you can still tell that he's a big guy doing this shit, and his body should not be doing that. You know what I mean? When he's jumping over the rope, it's like, holy shit, this huge dude is moving. Yeah. And the personality on this man.
So articulate. The articulation is half of what I love about him. Like when you hear him just talk and his little... Oh, he's got a style of talking that I don't think anyone else has in wrestling today.
Yeah, the intelligent monster almost, you know what I mean? He, and then the whole thing with the Basking My Glory, it's such a heel thing, but the character is so cool, people just fucking love it, you know what I mean? Yeah. So it gets over as a face thing at the same time. It's tremendous, man. He's, again, a big guy, so I'm not shocked that WWE came calling, but they came calling really, really quick. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. He reminds me in a lot of ways. I was a big Mike Awesome fan back in the day, in terms of, big guys who could just fly into all this ridiculous stuff, like that big dive that Mike Awesome used to do over the top rope to the outside, that I think was in the ECW Open for forever, where he kills the dude and squishes him on the guardrail. But yeah, Keith Lee, and from that weekend as well, we saw that amazing match with Donovan Dijak. So Dijak and Keith Lee, I believe Big Dave gave that 5 stars, if I'm not mistaken.
I think you might be correct there, yeah.
Yeah, and now Dijak's been in NXT for a year, and he hasn't done anything, which is a bit shocking to me. I don't know. I hope that Keith Lee is not going to be the same kind of deal there.
Yeah, and sometimes you think the WWE just grabbing guys that have them under their umbrella so they can keep them there, not necessarily do a bunch of stuff with them really quick. And when they were trying to, it almost seems like with NXT they're targeting ROH and making ROH or NXT their version of ROH. So, 2 former ROH guys with Dijak and Keith Lee and having them under their belt means they're not working for those companies. So, I'm not one of those wrestling conspiracy theorists. I think that kind of shit's always going on. But with ROH and NXT, it's Silas Young made the comments after WrestleMania weekend about how so many people came in to watch ROH and at the Smoothie Center as well as where they were based at. And he's basically saying NXT is the ROH show as well because there's so much ROH talent on it. You know what I mean?
When you look at those cards and you're like, when 2/3 of that card is made up of ex-ROH guys, there's definitely some wisdom to that.
Agreed, 100%.
Yeah.
And yeah, now Keith, on his way out of the Indies, has PWG throwing a show and naming it after the guy. So, I mean, he can't get much more over than that, you know?
Yeah, right. I mean, I think that's so cool. The Bask in My Glory PWG show, which is both a farewell to Keith Lee and potentially a farewell for Reseda, right?
Yeah, the Legion Hall, I think there's still potential that it may stick around. I think the deal was it was going to be gone altogether. And
yeah, so Legion Larry's selling up, right?
That's the story I heard. And then I heard that also some people, well, especially from Excalibur's lips himself, said there may be potential for other shows at the Legion. But for now, they're going to be doing a lot of their shows from the Globe, I think is what the name of the place was.
Yeah, I've heard that was a very cool venue for that that first show that they did just prior to that New Japan in Long Beach show. I think that was their debut at the Globe Theatre. And the reports coming out of it was just so nice, you know, being used to Reseda and just the quaint shittiness of that building, but it was great. But, you know, and then just everything being nice. It's like, I almost wonder, is it too nice? Is it too nice for PWG?
It's not the same vibe anymore.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I was of mixed feelings of it as well, because that Bowler weekend was actually my first PWG show ever. And the coolest part was the venue. You know, this shitty American Legion Hall, just packed to the gills with like wrestling fans and like cool wrestling fans at that. Like there were just a bunch of cool motherfuckers there. And just the whole culture of it, everyone hanging out in that car park all day. And it's just like a family kind of deal. And that bar, you know, there's something magic about that bar where you just get your whole pitcher of beer and just drink straight out of the pitcher. A lot of the fans there have their own individual pitchers that they bring from home with like custom stickers and shit on there. I thought that was very cool. But yeah, I'll really miss that American Legion Hall, you know?
Yeah, I'm actually the tickets for Basque went on sale, I believe, already on the 1st. I believe they sold out very, very quickly. So definitely a show I'm going to be missing. So I may not ever go to Legion again, man. I did travel down there quite a bit, and I like you said, the venue is half the appeal of the place. When you first walk in, you're like, this is where the wrestling show is going to be, and you see all the wrestlers so close. So
everyone hanging on the actual ring apron, like all the wrestlers sitting, selling their merch, and you're just having a chat with them. One of the coolest things for me, honestly, was waiting in that beer line. So the beer line will like wrap its way pretty much half around the other side of the ring, and you're just waiting in line. And, you know, you're chatting with people along the way, different fans and stuff, and then you passing the ring where all of the dudes are selling their merch, just sitting on the ring apron. And, you know, you just end up having a chat with, like, Jeff Cobb, for example. And I had a lovely chat with Jeff Cobb just while waiting in this beer line, and such a good dude. And like, so many of those guys, just such good dudes. Same thing with Trevor Lee. I love it.
And all the guys taking the opportunity some guys try to really hard sell you on the purchase of the T-shirt, and that's always funny because, you know, we can't buy a shirt from every one of you guys. You got to understand that. I've encountered like where guys give me the evil eye when I come back and don't buy a shirt the second time. Like, hey man, they're definitely overselling to be funny, but yeah, man, great encounters directly dealing with all these wrestlers, and hell, even sometimes celebrities sitting in the front row. Like you might be standing in line waiting to get your beer with your nuts and Dave Meltzer's face in the place. Like, sorry, Dave, I didn't mean to do that to you.
Yeah, you may, from my experience, end up in a weird like half-hour chat with Shayna Baszler and their little crew, and just be taken in because they're such nice people. You know, it's like crazy. Like weird times.
Oh, sure, but the upgrade of Into the Globe and all the video screens and stuff, like that presentation, I mean, you can't argue it. You can't, like, it's definitely much better looking than what we could be offered in the Legion Hall, but the quaint little dirt ball that is Reseda will always hold a special place in my heart.
Yeah, it will. And I was, like, quietly, like, I really hope that deal goes through, because I'd be really happy for Legion Larry if he can sell that. And that was a pretty nice looking price if that was anywhere accurate, the number that I read. So, if he can sell up and have a nice little retirement, good for Legion Larry.
Yeah, and the main event of that show is the title match, Sammy Guevara and Walter. I imagine that's going on last. And that contest sounds ridiculous. I can't even understand how that's going to work. He's going to beat the shit out of that young man.
Yeah, I think that'll be great.
Do you see a title switch? Do you see a title switch here at all?
Potentially. I mean, if this stuff that we're talking about, Walter, is accurate. But I mean, PWG has always been really good about walking that line about when a guy's about to sign. It's like, oh, you think we're going to have him drop the title here? Wrong. We'll have him keep the title for another 6 months or something crazy like they did with Ricochet. So who knows?
Yeah, and then Adam Brooks, who I just had the first opportunity to see wrestle this weekend, is taking on the aforementioned Keith Lee as well. So that should be an interesting match.
Dude,
Brooks, he's pretty dope. Like I said, I wasn't too familiar with him, but I saw him on one of the WrestleCon venue shows, and talented as fuck.
Sure is. Yeah, I've been a Brooksy fan for a while. He's one of those Australian guys, and I'm just real proud of what he's done and how far he's come up. He's part of a group in Melbourne that's probably like the top promotion in Australia called Melbourne City Wrestling. And his best thing, first time I actually got to see him once he was amazing, was a three-way with Will Ospreay and Robbie Eagles, I believe. And that match was just so good. Like, everything about that match was great. Like, the just crazy spots, feats of athleticism and everything. But where Adam Brooks stood at, he could do all that stuff, but he can also talk. And I'm not sure if he's actually got to break that out as much in his US indies stuff so far. But he is, like, such a hilarious, glib kind of a dude, to where once he starts, talking a bit more in the ring, I think people are going to love him all over again. Yeah, great guy.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear, man. Like, especially when guys who are in Australia who maybe don't automatically get a look on the American indie scene, and when they branch out and make it over here, it's always good to see like guys like Jonah Rock as well.
Yeah, who's working Timothy
Thatcher.
Thatcher.
Hard to see these countrymen.
Yeah, so proud of him. I've got a bit of a ways back with Jonah, and that's pretty much the main reason I went over for that bowler, just to see Jonah's first foray into PWG, getting a real shot. And I think he did really well on that weekend, and it sounds like he's done really well ever since. He's had a presence on every single show. PWG's flying him over from Australia, which is not a cheap flight. But yeah, he's been killing it. And yeah, I'm very excited for this match against Timothy Thatcher. I think they'll have a really good chemistry.
Yes, sir. And speaking of Bola, they did announce the dates, the 14th, 15th, and 16th of September at the Globe. My question to you, Chris, are you considering to go into this, or are you going to All In, or are you staying home for a while?
Oh man, I wish. I feel like my travel budget has been a little bit flattened out.
Overextended?
Yeah, a little bit overextended for the moment, to where I'm like, oh my gosh, I could go over and see All In, I could see Bola, but I think that would be a little bit too crazy. My travel buddy and cousin Ben was also saying, do we go over to Japan again for Dominion? We were actually there for Dominion last year with Okada and Kenny, and that was just announced. As Okada and Kenny main eventing Dominion at Osaka Joe Hall once again. So he was hitting me up about that. But I think I'm going to need to go into my cocoon a little bit in terms of the wrestling trips. Save up a little bit more money, and then hit it hard next year. I also feel quite guilty for the girlfriend, all these wrestling trips can make you into a little bit of an asshole sometimes. So I feel like I have to maybe go on a nice girlfriend trip for one of these ones.
You've had that experience as well. Yeah, I've been there, buddy. Yeah, I've definitely been there. My last girlfriend, that's one of her main complaints is heading down to go down to Bola 3 years in a row. So definitely feel you on that one.
Yeah.
I'm actually at this time weighing whether or not I want to do, because I definitely want to do All In or Bola, and it's amazing as All In sounds. Bola is a 3-day event, which that works out a lot better for travel plans instead of jumping for one day and coming back immediately. And 3 days, a little bit cheaper of a ticket too. So
is
I don't know. I'm
Bola
not
the
sure.
3 days? Because I
Bola's
read a
3 days.
report that it was only 2 days this year.
That's not what I just read on the thing. I just read. Hang on, let me double check. Let me get back. Let me get back to the last page I was on. But yeah, I think it was 3 days. Yeah, 15th, 14th, 15th, and 16th.
Okay, cool. Good to hear.
Yeah.
Great.
So yeah, that's and I again have not yet made it down to the Globe, so I'd like to check it out. And PWG fam are strong, so I think All In, unless it was a 2-day thing, I might have to skip that one. It does sound pretty tremendous, though. The card is shaping out to be one of your more amazing cards of history.
Yeah, it feels like it's definitely going to be one of those moments that you look back on in indie wrestling history of if they can do that crowd that they're talking about. And I believe they can. I think they can get that 10,000 in just from like the counterculture approach that they're sort of taking with it. First non-WWE show to do upwards of 10,000 people since, like, I don't know, would it be since WCW?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, and then, dude, honestly, with the way they have the ticket price structured, it's totally realistic. Like the front row, the really, really close stuff is $153. That's like totally realistic for any indie show.
And then scaled all the way down to $28.
Yeah, fucking A. Like that's how can you, even if you're way up in the bleachers, like in the, as they call it, the nosebleed section, it's still a great event. Like I know people who go to Wrestlemania and get tickets way up in the far right where you can't really even see what's going on.
Yeah, that's pretty much where we were.
Yeah.
I mean, you go for the experience. It's not necessarily the wrestling for that kind of thing. But even this, like, if it's the Sears Center, those upper deck seats aren't going to be too bad.
No, not at all.
Yeah, I mean, the card sounds like, we don't know the card yet, but just in terms of the talent announcements, it sounds like it's going to be pretty crazy. We've got Cody, the Bucks, Kenny Omega, Stephen Amell. Wonder what he's going to be doing.
He's the Green Arrow.
Yeah, the Arrow. I'm not much of a Arrow watcher myself, but I hear it's great.
Nor am I.
He seems like a great guy, and he was amazing in that weird little foray that he had was that WWE match against Stardust that I'm recalling a little while back?
Yes, sir. Yeah, and he actually was one of the people when I left Orlando that I ran into at the airport, nice enough to take a picture with me. So Stephen Amell, A+ in my book.
Oh, great dude. Great dude.
Yeah.
And then we got Hangman Page, Marty Scurll, Ray Phoenix, Pentagon Jr., Kazuchika Okada, Joey Janela and Penelope Ford, Jay Lethal, Tessa Blanchard, Deonna Purrazzo, and Chelsea Green. So, I mean, it's sounding like a pretty awesome talent list so far. I mean, do you think there's going to be a big surprise kind of a name that's going to be dropped prior to the show that may get people excited?
The name I always hope is the one that's going to be announced is one CM Punk, but I don't know, man. That would be, I'd lose my shit.
I think a lot of people would.
One man you did mention was Adam Page. This is a guy who, the development of his career, because he's like on the list of the people we mentioned.
Yeah,
probably
sure is.
The least known name on the list, and he has elevated his game, making it over to Japan. Became a real standout of ROH, and
sure did.
Wow, yeah, what do you think about this guy?
I've loved watching the progression of Adam Page. From seeing him first get over in ROH to like the point where just like on the duration of this last trip that I had, seeing him at that Long Beach show for New Japan, where he had like a really big match against Jay White for the title, the New Japan
Dude, that
US
was
title.
incredible. That's
Yeah.
one of the ones I watched back. That was
So good.
such a good match. Yeah.
And it was almost like I don't think the crowd was ready to see them at that spotlight on that show kind of thing, to where people were like almost watching it with folded arms, like, all right, let's see how these guys go. And yeah,
Where was that on the card? Where was it on the card?
I feel like that was either semi-main or maybe just prior to that. But yeah, it was right up there, and they got like, you know, half an hour, something like that in time. So I think that was almost like they did everything great, but there was still a little bit of like, I don't know if it was uncertainty from the crowd or something, to where it wasn't quite the hitting it out of the park that I think, you know, he would have wanted it to be, and a lot of people would have wanted it to be. But then going on to that ROH show that we went to in New Orleans, and he had a match with Kota Ibushi that I think was by far the best match he's ever had in his life. And it was everything that I was hoping it was going to be, and I think they both just hit it out of the park completely. So good. I loved it.
Agreed, 100%. Yeah, I used to do, for the people listening, I used to do a podcast for the MLW Network, Matt Farmer, and Paige was one of those guys we had on our show as he was picking up steam at ROH, and just he's been a guy that I've always felt had something special about him, and his promo work. When they finally gave him a microphone in ROH, the guy could spit hot fire on the microphone.
Oh yeah.
So really proud of his elevation in his career, and getting into New Japan is no small feat, man. That's not something that they don't just like bring any gaijin over there. That something's got to be good about you. It's something really special. You got to got someone's taken notice of something you have, and Adam Page is clearly that guy. How do you think he's going to progress there? Do you think he's going to be someone who can win not maybe just that U.S. title, but a junior heavyweight title? Or is that too much for this guy?
No, I think he could definitely be in the conversation. I think they do see him as a heavyweight. So you'd be more talking about that potentially, you know, the tag titles, or getting into that like never open weight title picture.
Oh, you're fair. That's fair.
Or, you know, I definitely wouldn't be surprised if within the next 12 months we see him as the New Japan US champion. You know, I think if he keeps this this ascent, he could be something really special.
Yeah, there you go.
Yay for words.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so no, I think that's going to be a really cool show, and I'm just really excited to see how those first day ticket sales go. You know, is it going to be like a 1 hour sellout of 10,000 people, or has that latest New Japan show with those tickets going on sale with San Francisco, and that them moving a little bit slower than I think people might have first thought, is that going to be how the all-in tickets go as well? Definitely interesting one to see how it goes.
And with Bola, like I said, is that going to be, you know, the thing that people want to put their dollar into? It's like the wrestling market, it sometimes does get a bit oversaturated with these really, really big shows. So I have faith. Like the guys have, the way they've marketed this whole all-in thing has been really fun and interesting. Everyone's waited with bated breath for all the stuff that they're going to drop, like all the little hints they do on being the elite. So they definitely know how to use the marketing machine that is social media to their advantage.
Oh yeah, Cody and the Bucks are smart men. I will never fault them for that. I think everything about the build-up for this show, it was almost like a viral build kind of deal, and you know, being the elite, it's been so good, and I think there's definitely a tangible level of excitement for it. You know, more so than just for the wrestling, but like I was saying before, for just like the counterculture moment that this could potentially be.
Yeah, and the Bucks, man, are just such a big thing at this point. Like, they recently announced they have their own little Funko Pop figures, like the first non-WWE guys to get that to happen. So some people still talk shit about the Young Bucks, but you can't deny the impact they've made into popular culture and the counterculture that wrestling has kind of seeped into as well. Because you'll see people wearing like Bullet Club stuff or Young Buck stuff that who may not even follow wrestling all the time. They just like cool graphics and shit, you know?
Yeah, the whole Hot Topic thing. I mean, it's ridiculous. But yeah, I think this whole move of this like cool era of indie wrestling, I think guys like the Bucks and Cody are like a huge part of it. Like I think they're quite responsible for a lot of these people going to these shows that they otherwise might not have because they're making it cool.
Yep, 100%. That's one of the things when like you mentioned earlier, when we were first wrestling fans, it wasn't like necessarily cool. You see a guy in a wrestling shirt sometimes, you're like, I probably want to avoid having a conversation with that person, to be honest with you. But nowadays, man, if I saw a guy with a Young Buck shirt up, I'd probably raise up the fucking fingers, say, what up, dude? Too sweet, brother. So, move on. We may not even discuss anything. I might just too sweet to do.
Yeah.
And it's a different thing nowadays. We don't have to hide our fandom so much.
Yeah, no, it's great. Just the variety of people that you meet through that kind of stuff kind of blew me away. Like, I met this amazing dude from France who's a journalist over there that was actually over to cover all of the shows. His name was Hal. Amazing guy. I met him first in LA on the way to the Long Beach show, and then just by happenstance met up with him again in New Orleans like 3 times. It was bizarre. Like, how are we seeing you again? But yeah, great guy, and lots of other moments like that. Like I was at a hockey game, I believe, in LA. It was actually really fun. And the security guy at the gate, I think I was wearing like a Lucha Underground hoodie or something like that, and he gave props for it, and then was just like, we were just bullshitting about indie wrestling and Lucha Underground and New Japan and just all this shit. And I'm like, how... This is so weird, but so cool. It's just great.
Yeah, man. Tremendous. And like you mentioned earlier, international people, like just the most random people, like me and you, for one, fucking an Australian guy and a guy from Seattle, Washington, up in America, just randomly meeting at a show and becoming mates, as they say down under.
Good bloody mates.
Chat.
Good bloody mates.
Bloody mates, man. And then, wrestling brings people together, and I agree, it's a ridiculous thing. That's kind of why we thought the name of the show, and who knows, it may not be in the long run, but I like it. Grown men watch this shit. It's kind of something that people who scoff at wrestling might say, and like, we're just kind of taking the piss. So who cares? It is a ridiculous thing to watch men do choreographed fights in their underpants, but I think it's fucking great. It's redneck kabuki theater, in my opinion. That's maybe hits a couple people, but
I love that description.
Yeah, professional wrestling is comic books, it's fucking action movies, it's sci-fi. It's this weekend at a show that I went to, a little place called 3-2-1 Battle up here in Seattle.
3-2-1 Battle. I know.
I watched a man by the name of Pitfall Jones use a invisible whip to wrap up B-Boy, so B-Boy couldn't fight him back. And Pitfall Jones kind of does a little Indiana Jones archaeologist, bad guy, wrestler.
Great entrance, by the way, for Pitfall Jones.
Pitfall Jones is great, and sometimes you got to suspend disbelief. That's ridiculous, a man with an invisible whip, but I thought it was fun as hell, and I enjoyed the shit out of it.
Oh, yeah, in every way. Oh, man, 3-2-1 Battle. So, I'd heard the legend of 3-2-1 Battle from their movie that they had a little while ago. Was it the Banana something?
Revenge of the Banana, I believe. Body
that
Slam,
is the
Revenge
one.
of the Banana.
Have you seen this?
I have not. I believe I saw some, like, a good amount of the clips from it, but I've never seen the full thing, unfortunately.
Same. So I'm going to endeavor to watch that in the next couple of weeks. I'll be able to get back to our listeners the review on that. But yeah, just such a cool little thing. It's kind of like a bit of a art wrestling, like a faux wrestling kind of a show. That's just really fun. The hosts of it are awesome. The crowd is like, I reckon maybe a 60-40 mix of like wrestling fans and then just like hipsters and shit that want to go out and have fun.
I think maybe 70-30. No,
yeah. No, I believe that.
Not only is it just goofy faux wrestling, but then they take time to actually travel in and bring in these really legit wrestling standouts to bounce off these guys who are there. A lot of them are trainees. That's one of the things about the Washington state laws is in order to put on wrestling shows, some of the shows, the majority of the shows, members have to be even trainees. They can't have a lot of licensed wrestlers, and it's a bunch of ridiculous bullshit. But
So weird.
yeah, so 321 just puts on amazingly fun shows where it's absurd and silly, but also you see tremendous actual wrestling matches.
Oh
Like,
yeah, like all of the props for dudes like B-Boy. And does B-Boy run the school?
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
no,
B-Boy. No,
B-Boy doesn't
okay.
run the school.
Okay, but I mean,
Ethan HD, who's also a really talented guy from up here, he runs the school up here. He actually was down training at Bad Luck Folly School in New Zealand as well.
oh wow, yeah. No, it's so bizarre seeing the crazier gimmicks, like you said, Pitfall Jones, or one of my favorites from the show that I saw was a man by the name of the Backyard Warrior. Oh no, the Weekend Warrior. Sorry.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, big stay-at-home dad that on the weekend likes to do a little bit of wrestling. That's the whole gimmick. He's actually a former gymnast, so he actually is pretty agile doing standing moonsaults and shit. It's pretty insane.
I saw him doing the gimmick, and I was like, all right, I like this gimmick. This is a fun gimmick. You know, he comes out with the whole outfit playing on that cliche of the weekend warrior wrestler with his jean shorts and all that. And then you see him go, and he actually was a badass worker. He could do a bunch of really cool shit. That moonsault to the outside. He did like this sweet sliding German under the bottom rope type of thing. Oh, great. Really fun looking dude.
And it's something actually I've been going there for a while now, but I initially only heard about it and never ventured out. So if you're a wrestling fan and maybe you hear about a ridiculous show going on in your area and somebody's not showing interest in it, go check it out, because you may never know. You may find a diamond in the rough like 3-2-1 Battle, which is incredibly fun and how I spend the majority of my Friday evenings once every 2 weeks.
Oh, I love that they have such a regular schedule of shows. It's really cool. But yeah, I mean, anyone in the greater Seattle area, and you maybe have some friends that are not necessarily wrestling friends but just want to do something cool, take them to 3-2-1 Battle. You know, I don't think there's a better environment to get that crossover appeal of just the fun of what wrestling can be than 3-2-1 Battle.
100%.
Yeah, so good. Also, I wanted to give a shout out to maybe my other favorite gimmick there, the Bird.
He's so awesome, dude.
So good. How can you describe this gimmick to people playing at home?
Sure. So the Bird is a luchador. The Bird is not just because he's of avian descent. He likes to throw his middle fingers about wildly, and it flips everybody off. Everyone in the crowd's flipping the guy off. They're smashing fingers instead of high-fiving. And he's a really, really talented little guy.
Also, the entrance music, just for people knowing at home.
Oh, yeah.
Bird is the word. Of course. How could he have anything else?
Bird is a word.
So you can just imagine bird is the word, and he's doing the fingers to match the thing. Everyone in the crowd's doing the fingers back. Oh, so much fun.
And he was the recent Battlemania. He did win the title, but unfortunately, I'm not sure if you watched last night, Chris, but
Don't tell me. Don't tell me.
I'm sorry. The Bird is no longer 3-2-1 Battle Solid Steel champion.
He's lost the Solid Steel.
Solid Steel title. Oh, it's back on Daniel Makabe, where it belongs in my opinion.
Oh, I'm outraged.
Yeah. But yeah, dude, the Bird just got over so hugely, and then that Battlemania. What a way to end the show. This guy coming out, cashing in his battle medallion and winning his coveted 3-2-1 Solid Steel title.
Can we try to explain the whole Solid Steel thing for our listeners?
Yeah, man, go ahead. You want me to do it or you got it?
My first experience of 3-2-1 Battle was that last show, the Battlemania, from the really, really cool venue, the Showbox. It's like a cool music venue. Yeah. And yeah, the main event, it was obviously our buddy the Bird getting the title, but throughout the rest of the show, they have live commentary. which is its own thing. In the past I've kind of like, frowned a bit on live commentary, but for this situation I think it works great because the guys are almost like live comedians for the crowd, a little bit like Lucha Vavoom in that way. But yeah, throughout they'll let's say there's a chair and they'll do a shout out and it's like there's solid steel chair, and then every time they say solid steel, for some reason the crowd echoes back solid steel. And to start with, I was just puzzled. But then as it went on through the show and they're just getting this solid steel on everything, I was like, I got a kick out of it. And now it's stuck in my head forever.
Yeah, dude. The best is like eventually they'll do a couple in a row, and then Murray Grande, one of the hosts, the commentators, will say something solid steel, and then everyone will just go solid steel. Yeah. They have other chants too. Like if somebody gets hit in the dick, Cody will say he hit him right in the, and then everyone in the crowd goes Dioc. It's just such a great time. Cheap beer, readily available, and I don't know. I've never smiled more in my life than I do at 3-2-1 battle shows, and that's a fucking shoot, brother.
So good, so good, and I think cheap beer is the key to fun indie wrestling because I think that's what gets it flowing with PWG. That was a big part of that Beyond Wrestling show that I was talking up before. Obviously, a big part here, 3-2-1 battle. I cannot say enough good things about cheap American beer.
Yeah, everyone's readily ready to play along because wrestling, of course, is a human improv between the audience and the wrestlers, yes, and in each other and just playing along. And so getting a little bit inebriated makes the people who don't come to wrestling all the time play along a little bit more. They're like, oh my God, the bad guy. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. They take time to suspend disbelief for the ridiculous men in their underpants fighting. And so that's just a great combination.
Really is, yeah. And I mean, cheap beer actually is a thread between pretty much all of these cool indie shows. The Joey Janela's Spring Break, prior to that, the WWN Super Show. I was sitting in this really cool group of dudes. One of them, I believe he was from Alabama, and his name was Sid, which is its own kind of cool thing. Sid from Alabama. And,
hell yeah.
And he was such a great guy and kind of like just surmised whatever. The whole thing of he only started watching stuff outside of WWE in the last year. And he's sort of this whole world is new to him and exciting, and he was just like having such a great time seeing this crazy world outside of the establishment wrestling, and I thought that was just so good. And he was having such a good time, and he actually knew a lot for someone that's only been a fan for a year. But yeah, we ended up spending the night just buying each other cheap American beer. I believe it was Heineken. Is that one of the cheap ones over there?
I think they try to sell themselves as like a beer from another country, but I think they are made in America. I'm not sure. Yeah, I used to drink that a lot, but Heineken's pretty damn good. To me, it always, now tell me if I'm wrong, it tastes like marijuana. Like the actual beer itself tastes like pot.
I could get that. One of my other favorite cheap American beers, maybe a bit more on the cheap side of Heineken, is the classic PBR. Eric Cannon's sponsored beer of choice. Love those PBR tallies. That was one of the best parts about all those shows at the Sugar Mill. Got a lot of good PBR. Yeah, just such a fun time. We're just, buying one another beer, just talking wrestling. We have our whole little crew there where there'd be a badass match and then we'd all be like high-fiving one another and jumping up and down. Oh, that Matt Riddle Will Ospreay match on that show. Holy shit. I think that actually was the best match of the weekend. Do you have many recollections of that one?
Yes, sir. That was fucking tremendous, dude. It's one of those matches where at first I was just like distracted by the circles on Will Ospreay's back, and like, did this guy get cupping techniques to help his fucking injured back? And I guess that must have been what was going on. But Matt Riddle is one of those guys where when you pair him up with anybody who has a opposite style from him, because nobody really does the the MMA style as well as Riddle. But when you team up with somebody who definitely does the exact opposite, those mixes are so tremendous. Like him and Will Ospreay. I think it's one of those matches where you could tour around the country like they did with Ricochet and Will.
Yeah, definitely. I just rated it so highly that they really played upon the very serious concern that everyone had for Will that weekend coming out of that ridiculous spot with him and Marty on the apron in that junior title match in the New Japan show. Oh, that was scary.
Oh, and also just to go back, I double checked. Heineken is made in the Netherlands.
Oh, so is it actually produced in the Netherlands or made?
Let's see. Production was in the Netherlands. I don't see where it's been incorporated new beer brands. So they produce it everywhere from Mexico, China, Australia, and in Africa as well. So it doesn't actually look like they're making it in America. I guess
North
it is
America,
still an import.
Mexico.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Beer facts on our show.
Lovely.
So yeah, man, Will, that move, the fucking reverse Rana off on the apron, and then he clips the apron with his head and gets all fucked up and gets concussion. Like, I appreciate the effort.
Yeah.
But just chill out, bro.
Yeah, he's one of those dudes that, I mean, I was a big time Dynamite Kid fan. Obviously not at the time, being a 32-year-old man, but one of those guys where we go back and watch his stuff. That's who's with Tiger Mask, all that shit, and you're just like, holy shit, this guy's got to be one of the greatest innovators in wrestling history. But
100%.
Just took such a reckless approach to his wrestling, where it's like the wrestling is far above his own well-being, and I see the same thing from Will Ospreay of just like. I'm hoping that he'll be able to walk in his 40s, but I do have a great concern.
Yeah, you're not shitting me, dude. The fucking guy, that is one of the most gnarly spots I've ever seen. And say he didn't hurt himself. It's like he didn't do that. The landing still is fucked up. Like there's no give to what they call the hardest part of the ring. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
I'm shocked that I doubt we're going to see that one in the future. Do you think is that one retired? Well, I mean, Ricochet retired the double moonsault. Is Will Ospreay going to retire the reverse Rana on the fucking apron? I for one hope so.
I'd like to think so, but I'm not thinking.
Not confident?
No. But yeah, that match with Riddle, they did. What was the spot? It was a crazy spot off the top rope where they teased re-aggravating his neck injury. And you could have heard a pin drop in that venue because everyone believed it 100%. They had everyone rush out from the back and do all that bit. Everyone was like, "Oh my gosh, is he dead?" I think it was the moment where one of the referees got in Matt Riddle's face because he was trying to get back in it. We're like, "All right, it's a work. Oh, it's okay."
Yeah, thank God. How do you feel about that stuff? Like, when they play, sometimes people get pissed when they play that much with reality. I for one like to have my reality suspended as much as possible. So even if they're just fucking work with me, I don't ever get mad at it.
Yeah.
But people are. Let's just talk about it. Sami Callihan, the whole situation with him and Eddie Edwards.
I love it.
On the internet, they played it as it was fucking legit. Who gives a fuck? I don't shit happens. Reality. Oh man, I'm so sorry. Do you prefer them to go full force with it and play heel as much as possible and say fuck you? We're actually going to try to work the fans this time.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, I think it's getting back to wrestling's always been about that blurred line between reality and fiction. And a lot of people take the approach these days to wrestling to where it's a complete work, almost like in the same genre of a fiction television show or a movie kind of thing. And it's, our real life is completely separate to our wrestling persona or whatever. But I think when you can actually blur that level of reality and you feel like the guy that you're watching in the ring who's, a piece of shit or a great guy or whatever is something approximating his real personality, I think that's where the money is, and I think that's where the believability is. And while some of those things, like we saw with the Matt Riddle Ospreay thing, I think that went over great. I've seen other ones that have just been gone over like a fart in church, where sometimes it's not that good and it's a bit more cringeworthy, but when it's done well, it's done well. You can't fault it. And I love the way that Sammy Callahan has played up this thing with the Eddie Edwards baseball bat shot. Like you have all these people questioning if he knows how to work and all this bullshit, and he's just straight up being like, no, I tried to crush that fucker's face in and I'd do it again. And I respect that.
And he's all like, look at my bank account. It doesn't seem to be getting any smaller. Things are working out for old Sammy Callahan.
Yeah.
So, yeah, agreed. Yeah, then when I got the opportunity, because initially I was kind of like, what the fuck? No real apology. And then the more I thought about it, like, oh, duh, that's the way to go. Like, I initially did get work injury. Like, I was like, because, I didn't say friends with Eddie, but we was talking and stuff, and he's like, help me out get a ride after a wrestling show in an Uber. He's a good dude.
From all accounts, I've heard Eddie is like just such a good dude in every way.
He's one of the best guys ever.
Yeah.
And then see him and no remorse at all. Initially, I was irked because I considered it fucking disrespectful. Then I realized what the fuck was going on. And then I'm like, holy shit. I actually got worked for a second, and I respect what the fuck's going on here because that's genius. Yeah. Everyone else around is like, after a wrestling match, oh, you accidentally hurt the guy in your fight, so you're going to apologize? That makes no fucking sense.
Yeah, get fucked with that bullshit. The moments that I can get caught up in wrestling and be like, I don't know whether that was, a thing or not, and like where it actually suspends my disbelief, that's what I love. There's nothing wrong with that.
And it still happens every once in a while. And when it does, even us most, cynical wrestling fans have to stand back and say, holy crap, that's what makes wrestling great. Like, I didn't know what the fuck was going on. That seemed real to me, and it wasn't. Like, it's just beautiful, man. It's great.
Yeah, and that's where I think this Riddle Ospreay match just like walked that line perfectly. And then following that injury where they came back, there was such a level of just support in every way for Will Ospreay and just hate for Matt Riddle from a crowd that just loved Matt Riddle when he's made his entrance and everyone's doing the bro. And then they just like have this disdain for him. I thought that was just like fantastic storytelling, and that finishing sequence was just hot as shit. And yeah, I was so happy to be part of it.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons So initially, when I made the trip down to New Orleans, I had no plans of actually going to WrestleMania. It just kind of fell in my lap over time. But I wanted to go and see these kind of matches in these type of venues with like-minded wrestling fans where you can only experience them in person. And you can watch it on demand, sure, but seeing something like that or like the Matt Riddle Bloodsport thing with no ropes, knockouts, or fucking submissions only in person is just a trip. Like, I've never seen a no rope match where it's just people beating the shit out of each other.
Oh, I love that. I'm a big fan of like the shoot style wrestling from Japan and UWF, UWFI, Pancrase, all that kind of deal. And for a long time, people sort of questioned whether that would work in the States, and people thinking it wouldn't because people want their wrestling to be. I think Dave Meltzer had a good explanation for it. We said they want their wrestling to be the movie that they're watching. They don't want like the movie that they're watching and then, oh no, but this one's real kind of deal. And I thought there was something to it, but actually watching that Bloodsport show, I thought it walked that line so well. And there was a lot of education from it, like in the first couple matches, from like the submission stuff, where to start with the crowd was reacting to it like a normal pro wrestling show, normal pro wrestling match. The guys would go to the ground and it'd be like almost reacting to it like it's a rest spot or whatever. And then there's a finish out of nowhere and they're like, whoa. So then it got to the fact where it would go to the ground and then people's reactions would be heightened about, oh, they're on the ground, here we go, we can get another fast finish again, who knows, or like the fast knockouts. There are a lot better reactions to a lot of the strike exchanges because of the fact that a flash knockout could happen. I thought the whole thing went really well. I really liked the Dan Severn match with Chris Dickinson. Dickinson's another guy that's really good, doesn't get enough love. I first saw him in Beyond Wrestling as well, and I think he's breaking out in Evolve and WWN at the moment. But that match, while not being too long, I thought it was great for what it was. And then holy shit, that Matt Riddle Minoru Suzuki match. I don't think I've ever seen a cooler atmosphere for a match than the entrances for that match, you know? So nuts.
Yeah, it was my first experience actually watching Suzuki live, so I was
Cool.
really looking forward to it. Because initially, some people might be familiar, but the way the card was initially set up, it was going to be Riddle and Loki. And Loki, due to injury or something, pulled out the last minute, and I guess pissed a lot of people off. But this replacement... And
what a replacement!
Let's talk about an upgrade, Minoru Suzuki. So I kind of lost my shit and said, "Yeah, I'm definitely attending that one." And yeah, you're right. It like the Bloodsport theme. It felt like a movie, big time end of big boss fight that was going on with Riddle and Minoru Suzuki, and it left. Excuse me. It exceeded all expectations as far as I was concerned. And some of the stuff, like you said, like the education process, there was one spot where it was like a knockout where it almost like no one really knew, and people got pissed at the referee because it felt like he called it at the wrong spot. Even when he came out later, people were still flipping the same referees and shit. So, yeah, I think it's something that could work. I don't know if there's like something where it's going to be like a monthly program or maybe every couple months there's a Bloodsport style show. You know what I mean?
I feel like a Bloodsport show on every WrestleMania weekend would actually be a really cool thing. Like the success off of that one.
Okay.
But
it's one of those things where you think Riddle would want to, like, if he's not going anywhere, would want to market it some more. But you're right. A strong one time a year, I think that would be fucking great.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, when you're saying about the upgrade to Minoru Suzuki, I may, from those early ROH days, be like the biggest Loki fan in the world. So I was quite devastated when Loki wasn't going to be on that show, but holy shit, I think Minoru Suzuki is the best wrestler in the world right now. So I was stoked as shit to be able to see Minoru Suzuki wrestle Matt Riddle. And you were saying before about Matt Riddle maybe working best when he's working against a contrasting opponent, like a Will Ospreay or someone like that, where I think him and Suzuki really worked well together. I mean, it wasn't a long match, and I think some people maybe were expecting more of a classic 20-plus minute type of deal. I think they ended up going like 10, 12 minutes, something like that. Does that sound about right?
Yep.
Yeah, but for what it was, I thought they had some awesome heat, awesome tension, some really great exchanges. The submission stuff was just like out of this world. Yeah, I thought it was awesome and was just a great cap off to an awesome night's shows and a lot of people's introduction to the craziness that they were going to see for the rest of that weekend.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah. No, you're definitely right. The chemistry between Riddle and Suzuki was tremendous, and it's one of the things where I think the mystique of Minoru Suzuki when he's paired with a lot of guys is like, well, let's see how the fuck this is going to turn out. Because some people call him, I believe, Murder Grandpa. That guy doesn't take no shit.
I haven't heard that before, but I love it.
Oh yeah, Twitter, Murder Grandpa, man.
Oh, Murder Grandpa. So good. Yeah, there's few people in this world that just convey a sense of just gonna kill you at any moment just with a stare.
Yes.
And I think, there have been few people over time. I think like back in the day in PWG, Super Dragon definitely had that. You have Super Dragon approach you in a dark alley. That's some scary shit. But yeah, Minoru Suzuki, totally the same deal. There's such an intense stare. Oh, one of the best things lately, I don't know if people are onto it, but on the New Japan YouTube page, they actually have subtitles for all of the promos these days for all of the New Japan press conferences, post-show interviews, main speaking segments in the ring, all that kind of stuff. And one of the coolest parts of all of it is being able to watch Minoru Suzuki promos. Because I used to watch Minoru Suzuki promos and have no idea what he's saying, but just his delivery was so out of this world that I was still just soaked in. And now being able to watch them and like understand what he's talking about, next level. People need to get onto this.
Yeah, I wonder, like, just the logistics of somebody who has to take the time to not only translate but actually transcribe all of that shit. Like, what an undertaking! Holy crap!
Yeah, and they like do every little thing from the show. So they have like the post-match comments from like match 1 through match 7 of like every show that's on New Japan World. I don't know how they do it.
Yeah, man, that's pretty amazing. Yeah, Suzuki is honestly, I saw another match with him with Jeff Cobb over the weekend, and it's just something to behold, especially with someone who you view as such a badass as Jeff, and kind of actually seeing him being taken down by Suzuki. Like at one point, Suzuki had him in a leg vine, hanging out of the ring over the ropes, and Jeff was like inside the ring still, like hanging on the ropes, standing up, and it was just fucking gnarly. It looked like it hurt so bad.
Yeah, I was there for that match. That was really good too. I enjoyed that a lot.
Speaking of that, the people may not know this because we haven't mentioned it yet, but Chris, luckily enough, after or during the Wale Mania show, we tried to run down to the Sugar Mill to go make it into the WrestleCon Super Show. This motherfucker, I got lost. I went the wrong direction. I missed him. He walked into the backstage, back to the security guard, and just walked through the curtain. I did the same, but when I realized I was backstage, I chickened out and ran out. You got to see the fucking show. How was that show?
Dude, that was... Yeah, I always forgot about that. That was one of the most whack stories out of that whole weekend. So I made the decision, based solely on how enjoyable previous years' Wale Manias have been, on, I'm going to go to this Wale Mania. There may be this crazy-ass awesome super show going on down the street, but I don't care. I'm just going to see Wale Mania, and it's going to be great. Safe to say it maybe did not quite deliver to those expectations. It ended up quite early, and we were having drinks, and we were just saying, that show is probably only just gotten going. You wanna just break in? Because the whole show was sold out. I think that was one of the most sold out shows of the whole weekend. And straight up, without even a question of it, I think a quarter of a second later, you're just like, yeah, let's do that.
And I fucking go out of the venue waiting for you, and I can't find you, so I start walking. Me and my buddy Derek, we walked down the wrong way on the road because the GPS was fucking with me. Maybe it was the drinks, I don't know. So we head back to go in there, and I'm a big guy, so I just walked past the security guard, and Derek was right behind me, and we realized we were backstage, could not get in. I'm like, Chris, how'd you pull this off? He goes, I just walked through the curtain. So he just walked back. He could have popped out anywhere. He could have been right next to the ring. He just happened
to be I could have just happened to walk down the entrance ramp for all I knew. Yeah. Shit.
Good God. That was amazing.
Yeah.
That was a great introduction of the weekend. And then Wale Mania, I went back, and it actually it popped off pretty strong once Wale started playing.
Yeah, Wale sounds good.
I get a message from Chris saying, hey, got me, myself, and a couple wrestlers outside who want to get into this bitch. Can you help me out? And I go, hey, I can do that for you. So I run outside, and I wave all of them in, and Chris starts walking with me because he knows me. Nobody else starts coming. Like Tyler Bate and I think it was Trent Seven just stared because they didn't realize I was actually the guy that was going to be getting in. So
Marty Skrull was there as well, looking pimp as fuck in his suit.
Did I help Marty get in as well?
Yeah, I think so. You got all the VIPs in.
All right, so we hustle all these motherfuckers into the VIP with no wristbands, and what a great evening. I got so lit. It was tremendous.
Oh,
I heard you say lit.
As soon as I worked out that we could abuse that open bar without having the proper wrist tag, I was all about that. What was it, like rum? Some sort of delicious rum there? I very much enjoyed that.
Very tasty.
Yeah, and Teddy Hart and his cat were back there. My buddy's fiance was hanging out, ended up holding Teddy Hart's cat for the whole night. I think Mr. Cinnamon is the official name of this one. But
okay.
Yeah. It was a wild night, my friend.
Yes, sir.
So good. Yeah, when we walked through that curtain, I just said to my cousin Ben, whatever you do, just walk with conviction and you'll be fine. And we just walked straight through into the match that was happening in the ring right then when we walked through. And I think it had only just started. Jeff Cobb and Tomohiro Ishii.
That's so awesome. Did you guys have seats, or you just stood up and stayed around?
We stood up for the first bit, which was awesome because it was one of those, almost like a retro ROH show where you just had these corner bits of the ring which people were just all standing, milling around and going crazy and getting real drunk. And then I think toward maybe 3 matches last 3 matches of the show, my buddy John, who was front row with the fiance, actually said, I just found us you guys 2 seats front row. So we got to watch the rest of the show from the front row.
Yeah, fucking lucky bastard. That's awesome. That's sometimes how it works out, man. That's fucking tremendous.
Yeah. So while not advocating that all of our listeners break into wrestling shows, please support your local wrestling shows. Don't sneak into them. But if ever they are sold out and it's a really good card, feel free to take my advice.
Yeah, one of the two, whichever one works out best.
Oh, man.
Man, how long have we been going?
I think we're at 1:20, so I think this this baby has reached its climax. I think we're just little finishing it off, and yeah, I've had a lot of fun in this first show, man.
Yeah, dude. Actually, you know, was a bit apprehensive, and not because I didn't think it would be good, just because I'm a nervous Nelly in general and have anxiety-ridden panic attacks constantly. But yeah, man, this was good. I enjoyed the hell out of myself. Always enjoy chatting with you about wrestling. So I think this could be quite a fun enterprise.
I think so. I like to think that through our little bullshitty chat, you know, there are other people out there who may not have their wrestling buddies that they can have this kind of a nice little rapport with. They might not get to talk about this indie wrestling stuff as much as they might like. So we can be that friend. We can be that friend on the other end of the line in their little earbuds while they're going about their day. And yeah, hopefully they can enjoy the social element of cool dude indie wrestling as much as we can via proxy, you know?
Yeah, let us nestle in your ear canals, my friends.
Yeah, we're here for you, friends. We're your friends. Indeed. Yeah, we're all buddies here.
Beautiful. I like this. I like the sentiment because honestly, it's one of those things where when you do finally get someone who's a like-minded wrestling fan you can bullshit with, it does become something where, man, the conversation typically always turns to wrestling, and you may even turn it to other things associated with your life, like comparing regular life situations to wrestling situations. Like sometimes inadvertently, not by any means of my own, I start calling people in real life heels and baby faces on like regular TV shit. Like I don't mean to do that because it's kind of obnoxious. Like, yeah, this guy's the baby face of the show. Or,
yeah, I'm the same. There's only so much vernacular that your brain can kind of deal with at any time. So I think that's kind of the deal. Yeah.
Yes.
All the wrestling lingo, like my girlfriend Courtney will be constantly be like, "You guys using wrestling words again?" And it's like, "Oh yeah, I guess we are. Sorry about that."
Yeah. That's okay.
No, man, I'm real happy about it, hey, and yeah, I hope this can be a bit of an ongoing thing, and other people out there can get some enjoyment out of it, you know.
Hell yeah. So yeah, grown men do watch this shit.
Grown men do watch this shit.
Yes, sir.
Unashamedly so.
No shame in my game.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
So eventually we'll figure out some sort of sign-off. On the last show, I did get Schwifty from the Rick and Morty show, but Indie Riffic is dead and gone. So if we want to adopt it, we could. It's something that is fun to say, but I don't know. Maybe we'll come up with our own. And honestly, if anybody wants to get feedback, I know this is literally the first show, but any feedback always more than welcome. Yeah,
please. We're definitely very open to that, very receptive to that. A lot of this show is just going to be schmooze and bullshit, you know, not maybe necessarily as much structure as some other shows might have, but the whole thing is just a chat. We're just here to have a chat, you know, so however that goes. But if you guys do specifically want anything or have any specific questions, we're happy to take that on board. I did set up a Twitter account for the show.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah.
I need to follow that. I need to follow my own show's Twitter account.
Yeah, well, I just set it up. It currently has 0 tweets and 0 followers. However...
we'll change that.
Yeah, so it's the Grown Men Watch This Shit podcast. You can find us at...
Grown Men Pod.
Because we are grown-ass men.
Damn right, sir. I got a beard and everything, Chris.
And while we don't have the cool bit of the sign off, I do want to say a thank you to the podcasting platform, the guys that are making this magic happen, the great dudes over at Social Suplex. These were actually a bunch of dudes that I hit it off with on that magical night of Joey Janela's spring break. And yeah, great guys. They run a whole bunch of other shows. So in addition to the grown ass men podcast, we've also got on the Social Suplex Wrestling Network, One Nation Radio, hosted by Rich Latta. We've got Keeping It Strong Style, based on New Japan Pro Wrestling, hosted by Jeremy and my homeboy Josh Smith. We've got the Ricky and Clive Wrestling Show. We've also got the Outsiders Edge Wrestling Show, hosted by Rance and Carl. And the Wrestling Wash, which is based on Impact and ROH, hosted by Bathtub Caleb Baldwin. And you can have a look at all of those on the homepage over at the website at socialsuplex.com.
So wait a minute, I heard another Jeremy is on this platform. So do you think I need to go by Vanderbeek or Beek or something? Because we don't want any confusion. I don't want anyone to think I'm on two shows. That's too much work for me. That's
true. Well, I have always found the Vanderbeek very very nice, very striking. I think it's a great name. It sticks in my head.
Let's go with it.
Yeah.
Let's go with Vanderbeek. Let's rock it.
Let's go, Mr. Vanderbeek. I love it. All right, guys. All right, well, thank you so much for listening, rather.
Somebody is watching me, though. There's been somebody staring at me this entire time. I'm not sure who it is, but we are being watched.
Ooh, like a creep staring in your window kind of deal?
Yeah, I think. Oh, hey, he's got no pants on. I think I'm going to talk to this guy, so we got to get out of here.
All right. Well, I hope he had a great time as well. But yeah, thank you so much, my buddy, Mr. Vanderbeek.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, everybody, for listening. And yeah, thanks for getting on board. See you later, dudes.
Adios.